Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report PrimeTime Weekend Edition. It is Saturday, June 5th, June 6th, 2020, and what a joy it is to be with you guys again here on Fight TV. The Super Show is back. We have so much to get to tonight, an active week in professional wrestling, but first, I'd like to introduce you to the man who will be joining me through this journey before we're joined by the rest of the Super PWR team later on. David Octavius, the Tiberius Steel Legend, backyard, one-time, knockout, straight edge, hardcore, Hall of Famer. David, how has your weekend kicked off?
You know what? My weekend has been abso-freaking-lutely tremendous. It's been nothing but... What?
Why you got to curse?
I said freaking, like frickin'. You know, I did.
Same thing, okay?
Well, no, I didn't say fucking with an A-W-K. I said freaking.
You don't like AEW?
I love AEW. I think there's a lot of great guys there. But listen, I'm just talking about the sunshine and rainbows that I've had all weekend so far.
It is Pride Month.
Sweet. Yeah, exactly. It's been sweet.
How does Cousin Jack feel about that?
You know, Cousin Jack, he's not celebrating the way he used to, but you know, he's been having a blast, you know.
We should probably leave that right there. David, it's good to be here with you again. What a night of shows over the course of the last two nights with Shane Hurricane Helms on Thursday and then again on Friday. You guys be the booked. Tomorrow night's NXT TakeOver. It is Sunday, right? The TakeOver pay-per-view?
In your house, right? Who would have thought?
In your house,
who would have thought that the 90s In Your House would be back with NXT?
I just wish they were giving away a house. I wish to bring Todd Pettengill back and give away the house.
Well, the housing market isn't, you know, it's super strong right now. So it's definitely a seller's market. So I don't know if they want to do that right now.
Strong like bull?
Yes. Like Tatanka.
I'm sorry?
Well, Tatanka means
hey,
bull,
how are you?
Doesn't it? Yeah, or Buffalo, or it's one of the two.
No. It means, hey, how are you?
Oh, sweet. Well, I'm great. I'm fantastic, and I cannot wait to see the rest of the group.
And we will be joined by Jason Solomon, Linda Kay, Andrew Baydala later on here in the broadcast when we go into the lounge. But before we do that, it is time for this week's top story, ladies and gentlemen. And what a top story it is. You know, Dave, we've been sitting on this one for about a week now. We've been trying to figure out how to address it, what we wanted to say about it, because it took some digestion. But last Friday night on SmackDown, WWE took things to the level of real life. That specifically pertaining to the story between Jeff Hardy and Elias. Now, it is no secret that Jeff Hardy has had some challenges in the past. Some challenges as far as his...
You know what? Let's call them what they are. He's had his demons, and every once in a while they come up and they scratch his back a little bit. Right? Let's call it what it is.
Jeff Hardy has been arrested for DUI a couple of times. He's been in rehab several times. Of course, no one can forget that Slammiversary match he had. I think it was Slammiversary, whatever it was a TNA pay-per-view match he had with Sting, where he was there physically but was not there mentally. And if you haven't watched that in a while, it is a true testament to the worst outcome in the life of a professional wrestler playing out on television. It occurred on that event. But Jeff Hardy, by his own admission, he has had some challenges. He's been on this show many a time. He's talked about those challenges. But now what has made it different is WWE has capitalized on making a story out of those challenges, as they did last Friday night on SmackDown. If you didn't see, and we saw the follow-up last night on SmackDown, but if you didn't see, the broadcast started off with, Renee Young covering what was seemingly a breaking news story of sorts, with Jeff Hardy having, not Jeff Hardy, but a car that had been crashed, damaged, up against the pole, clearly somewhere very close to the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, and Elias had been run over by said car. And it would be found that it was Jeff Hardy who was allegedly driving that vehicle and had run over Elias. They treated it very seriously. They tried to make it very real feeling. It didn't come off that way. It was sort of cheesy and hokey, in my opinion, because it was too produced and the car wasn't damaged. Yet the hood was just up, parked on a curb, must have been a rental. But the realism that they were trying to go for emulating was indeed very clear, and that is Jeff Hardy's personal struggle with those demons that you mentioned before. So this was, I had the privilege of watching it on tape delay, if you will. And I had heard and seen some tweets about it and said, this should be interesting. Let's take a watch. And from the get-go, I didn't like it. And not because of what they were doing, but just because it was like, all right, well, the car's not damaged. I mean, please put the car out of the frame
Yeah.
or something. Let's start there. And then secondly, it just didn't, so we got things around the world now. Like we had cops back when you were growing up, when you were a child, 6
Yeah,
years old.
exactly.
And now we've got live PD. And you see this stuff happen, 3 nights a week on A&E. And you can tell when it's real, you can tell when it's not. This was clearly not real because of that factor, even though they tried their best. I give them credit for doing it. There's only so much you can do. But it struck me as just corny and like, if we're going to go there, let's go there right. And let's go there for real. And let's go there with cops that don't have a rusty police car. It's just.
But it is Florida. It rains all the time. They're bound to get some rust.
They phoned
right?
it in. And with the overall production of the scene, it seemed very last minute. And I hate to say that WWE normally is top-notch production in everything they do, but in this case, not so much. But Dave, you saw it, you watched it, you've been very vocal with me privately about the segment, but let's share it with the world. What did you think of WWE taking advantage of the demons that have been in Jeff Hardy's past?
Well, let's just start off with how the week has been. Last week has been. It was a rough week for everybody. I mean, there was sorrow, depression, hate, anger, you name it. Everything was
Don't forget the photo op.
Yes, and photo ops. And so it's like I'm tuning into SmackDown looking to escape the really strong reality we're living in. And you see a car accident where it looks like Jeff Hardy was drinking and driving and almost killed somebody.
Yeah.
I understand SmackDown was taped earlier in the week or the week prior. Ooh, I would have called an audible on that, maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe I wouldn't have had it in the beginning of the show, maybe in the middle. And it just was bad business because the fans love Jeff Hardy. He tried being a heel in TNA. It worked a little bit. He tried being a heel a little bit in WWE. Not so much.
Well, let's not forget, he's been brought back with great hoopla and fanfare. They've been making a big deal out of the fact that Jeff is back in WWE after his most recent DUI, by the way.
Right, and which they have talked about in the past on TV as well, about his issues in the past and his addictive personality that he has. I get it. It's a different world. Everyone's transparent. We all want to say, well, this is what really happened. Let's just pull back, the curtain and see everything. And we've known Jeff Hardy for quite a long while. Super great guy, just like a super good dude. I know Jeff didn't say, he wouldn't say no. He's like, well, if that's what you guys want, if you think that's good business, yeah, let's do it. Because Jeff will always get over. He'll always sell his merch. The fans will still cheer for him. The kids will still be doing all the dancing and whatnot.
Is that Shinsuke?
No, it was Jeff Hardy before Shinsuke was Shinsuke. but it just I didn't like it because why do we need that? You know what I mean? There's just no reason for it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when Scott Hall came out as Last Call Hall on Nitro, no one liked seeing him drunk with the fake bomb.
That was hilarious. No, that was great.
But it was a different time.
But no, it was a different time. It was a different time. But Scott Hall doesn't have multiple DUIs.
I understand that, but no one liked watching Road Warrior Hawk stumble and fumble and fall for Titantron.
Yeah, that was rough.
You know what I mean? So I've yet to see an angle where they use the talent with an addictive personality where it ever truly ends well. And now here's the thing.
What's the thing?
Let's say Cal is 8 years old instead of almost 18. And his favorite wrestler is Jeff Hardy. And now Jeff Hardy looks like there's a car accident. He's stumbling. People on the show have mentioned, well, he's had his troubles in the past, blah, blah, blah. And my 8-year-old Cal goes, well, Dad, what are they talking about? What do you mean, he's had troubles in the past? What do you mean he was drinking and driving? Why? Why do that? I don't want to explain that to my son that loves Jeff Hardy, who just has every Jeff Hardy action figure, every Jeff Hardy shirt, every Jeff Hardy piece of merchandise and memorabilia you can imagine. Let's just say I went to a Comic-Con and I paid $100 to meet Jeff Hardy for the photo op and autograph. Well, now my son's favorite wrestler I have to now explain to him, well, let's be, he's been on the shelf for the last 6 months because he got his third DUI or fourth DUI, and all of a sudden Cal goes on the Google search now. Well, what else has he done? And he sees when, he almost went to federal prison for
Yeah.
all the other things he went into.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do the business of WWE, Jeff Hardy, and SmackDown any favors whatsoever. I didn't like it. I don't think they needed. They could have done 100 different things besides that.
Now let's say this. You have said, because you are at times somewhat wise when it comes to the behaviors of others, you have said, never meet your heroes.
Absolutely.
And
unless it's H-E-R-R-O.
There it is. And I know many of people who have met their heroes, met their idols, met the people they have emulated growing up. And what you just said indeed was the case. It was a disappointment. And that may not be for anything they did. It may simply be the fact that you elevate people sometimes to a level that they cannot live to. Jeff Hardy has had his problems. Hell, Matt Hardy has had his problems. They've both owned up to them. They've both gotten better. The fact that Jeff Hardy got a DUI, there are millions of people in this country who have gotten a DUI. One mistake, one night, I'm fine, I can drive, whatever it may be. That doesn't make a man.
Right, but their name isn't Jeff Hardy. That's the problem.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point.
Whose boss has a 3-strike rule?
Well, it depends on what those strikes are and who you are.
Right. But, I mean, let's talk about Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy, I love Matt. He was the ultimate train wreck. He was Charlie Sheen before Charlie Sheen was Charlie Sheen train wreck.
Yep.
To the point where he was about to fake his own suicide on YouTube.
Yeah.
Look at him now. I mean, he's healthy. He has 3 kids, I believe. Beautiful wife, beautiful house, living the dream, still a top draw. He got his life together. Jeff Hardy, he's been very close to accomplishing, getting his life back on track. I'm sure he will. But both guys, the attitude there, they start out when they were young. So there's lots of hills and valleys from that story. But, going back to the thing about, like, let's say if 8-year-old Cal is watching it, now he's pissed. Well, Dad, forget that. He's obviously, he's trouble. I'm done with Jeff Hardy. Dad, I don't want to watch anymore. And then he leaves the room and turns off the TV.
Yeah.
You now just lost a viewer, you lost a ticket buyer, and you lost someone that's going to buy your merchandise.
Yeah, but you know what? We have to be fair. We don't know where this is going to end up. We don't know what the.
Well, they're cleaning it up as they did last night, but it's still. But what if the person who watched last Friday was so pissed and so disgusted? What if it's a very ultra-conservative parent that says, oh no, my son's not watching this. I knew wrestling was bad. I've watched that Dark Side of the Ring. See, they're all alcoholics and pill poppers and steroid abusers, and they're all violent. That's it. We're done.
So what's the difference?
And they don't come back the next week.
What's the difference? We've talked about and heard a lot of very legendary people in this business tell us that the more close you can get to a real story in a wrestling storyline, the better off you are. The emotions there. Edge, Matt Hardy, and Lita.
That's completely different.
That's completely different.
That's completely different.
How so?
Because there is a certain amount of embarrassment, and this might not even be a word. Criminality? I don't know. Just like there's something
criminality
that comes with a DUI. Okay? Listen.
A stigma.
Yes, a stigma. If I get pulled over for a DUI, am I going to come on?
Right out of it.
Well, yeah. I'm not going to want to tell anybody about it. I'm like, oh, I'm a freaking loser. This is going to cost me between $5,000 and $10,000 just on my first offense. I know that because my brother's an attorney. And then there's it's just a sorrow thing. There's no way to rally. Oh, you're an idiot, you dumbass. What were you thinking? Why didn't you call me? With Matt Hardy, Lita, and Edge, well, that's a different issue. That's pulling on the heartstrings. And just about everybody has experienced heartbreak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So more people can relate with that. People can get behind Matt. Oh my God, Lita, that bitch. I can't believe she did that. Edge is a scumbag. And you want to see Matt, come back, and rise up again and just, either get the girl back or vanquish his arch enemy. It's kind of hard to have sympathy for someone that has the second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth DUI. Not saying Jeff has had that many. It's just kind of hard, for anyone to say, "Oh, you'll do fine next time. You're going to be okay. Don't worry about it. There's a lot more, DUIs in the sea," kind of thing. It just doesn't work like that.
But okay, I think that becomes a matter of personal opinion. Now, I am not advocating at all because it is an incredibly irresponsible thing. It's an incredibly dangerous thing because you're making a decision for yourself when you think you can drive under the influence. But more times than not, you're going to actually make a decision for other innocent people. I don't advocate it at all. But how much does a bad decision travel along your course of life? How long are you persecuted for that bad decision? Now, Jeff's made many of them.
Well, you want the honest answer to that?
Yes.
Pull up your court records, and that's how long it's going to be with you. As long as it's on that, court document. You go for a job, and it says, "Oh, 3 DUIs, irresponsible, no thanks." Pulls it up. "Oh, he got cheated on by his girl. He'll be fine. Yeah, we want you. Come on." It's completely different.
Did you just equate getting a DUI to being cheated on?
Well, I'm comparing the two because that's what you're doing. You're saying, how long will it stay with you? It stays with you for a long time. It's on your record.
So where
follow my details in this context, and you'll be fine.
So where should the story go? Should they continue? Should they move forward?
Here's the thing. It's like, well, if you're going to insinuate that he was roofied, well, now you're condoning, now you're talking about drug use. You know what I mean?
Well, come on now. Roofies are involuntary.
But it's a criminal act. You can't say he was roofied by somebody on the roster.
I think the only criminal act about roofies that we know about is Bill Cosby, and that was a bit of an extreme case.
Well, that was the Jello Pop, completely different.
What?
And I'm not. And hold on, I don't want anyone to think I'm making light of what he did.
You did.
I'm not. I did, but I didn't. Like, it's a terrible thing. But how can you not love a good Jello Pop once in a while?
Jello Pop?
You know what it is? It's like, I don't know how you truly get out of it. I really don't, because if your mind is clouded, you obviously took something. And what did you then take? Because now it's something else that you have to now bring in. It's not like, if anything, say he got jumped from behind him, was knocked out, and then put in the car. Like what they did. Like what they did in Son-in-Law with Pauly Shore. You know what I mean? That they could do.
Yeah. We saw a little hint of that, and that could be the way they go with it. But the fact is, the question of the story is they are emulating Jeff Hardy's real-life problems.
Yeah.
And they're bringing it to the forefront.
And I hate it.
But
I don't like it.
But to your point earlier, it's public. They made it public. He made it public by committing those acts. So It's public domain. If he says yes, hey, let's use that. He knows where the story's going. WWE knows where the story's going. Perhaps it is a ways that the ends will justify the means. We don't know that yet, but there is no doubt, at least from this standpoint, it was uncomfortable because, well, it was uncomfortable, but also because it was bad TV.
And again, also the timing of when the show aired. I mean, it was a very uncomfortable week last week, as is this week.
And yes, and unfortunately that uncomfort continues, but you're right. You said earlier, wrestling's an escape. A lot of entertainment is an escape. And sometimes you can compare wrestling to broadcasts, not sitcoms, but dramatic shows on television or whatnot. They never take the actor's real life and make it into a storyline in the scripted television show. WWE has done that. You talk about Scott Hall. Look, I don't think, yes, they do compare, but the Scott Hall thing was hilarious. Maybe it was because I hated WWE.
But hold on. But let's also keep in mind, Scott Hall and Jeff Hardy are two completely different talents. Scott Hall has that ad-lib charisma. He's a very quick thinker. Jeff Hardy has never been known for his talking abilities. So Scott could get that over in a highly comical way, whereas Jeff looked like he was completely wigged out.
We want to hear you guys and your opinion. We are, of course, broadcasting not only on Fight TV, but also on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. You can comment along with the broadcast and let us know what you think. And we'll ask you the question directly. Is this too far? Is this too much? Should WWE have gone there with Jeff Hardy? And we'll love to hear what you say, and maybe we'll bring some of those comments to air next week. But David, one thing that is real life that I understand is probably a challenge for you to comprehend and understand, and probably
I can only imagine.
Something that puts you into a dark place, and I really appreciate that. I mean,
Tonight always puts me in a dark place.
I am a very, very sensitive person, and I care a lot about the needs of others. But what I don't care about are the needs of others when it comes to the Pro Wrestling Report Fantasy Draft. Because come Sunday at NXT Takeover in your house, Finn Balor is going to be getting me all kinds of points when he whoops up on Damian Priest on the pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. So you take my domination that I achieved at Double or Nothing, and then you put that on top of the domination that Finn Balor's going to get me as well in at NXT Takeover. And I mean, I don't mind, and I would appreciate and respect it as a man if you were man enough to just simply concede now.
Well, I'm not conceding anything because I already have the trophy here.
I don't know. But why do you even whip that out? That's embarrassing.
I don't whip anything out. That's not a trophy. That's the difference. But you may have Finn Balor, who has done absolutely zero since he's been in NXT. I got Big Keith Lee going up against Johnny Gargano, the guy that comes up to here on him.
Yep, again,
I love my chances of Big Keith Lee retaining, his championship.
The NXT North American Championship?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Fine. You take your Keith Lee and you can do whatever you want with him. I got my Finn Balor, and I will continue to.
You can't do whatever you want with him. He's married, just so you know.
I literally went from what you all would call last place to what I would have called a strategic position in the race, and gained 380 points in a night.
And you know what? That is absolutely
thanks to Cody.
Tremendous. But hey, Fyter Fest, which we'll be talking about later, is on regular TV. So guess what? You get 0 points.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's not a pay-per-view.
No, it is a pay-per-view special event. It is a special event.
Not a pay-per-view.
Pay-per-views and special events qualify. You know what? No. You're not doing this. You're not, Hillary. You're not doing this. I am going to, no. In fact, you know what? Let's make it official. Let's right now. You are not taking my points away. No, not at all. Okay, fine. You know what? If you do, if Fyter Fest is on TV and you want to take those points away, then guess what? I get 3 times points for all, we all get 3 times points for all AEW pay-per-views and 2 times points for all NXT pay-per-views.
Why are you getting so upset, DM?
Because you're trying to rob me.
It's the rules. We don't want lawlessness in the PWR draft, do we?
We're in a pandemic, and there's a wall around the White House. Things change.
Did you see there's like more of a wall around the White House now? Bigger fence?
Marble?
No, they put more fencing around.
Yeah, they put the wall.
It's almost like Hell in a Cell over there.
You people want to see it!
The wait is over.
Got to give the people what they want!
All Elite Wrestling is now available on AEW+.
What are we seeing?
This is your chance to watch AEW Dynamite, commercial-free and live every Wednesday night.
Let's do this!
Exclusively on the Fight Digital Sports television platform. AEW Plus is available in over 100 countries outside the U.S., Canada, Germany, and France. AEW Plus can be viewed on your smart TV, mobile device, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, or at Fight.tv.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Starting this month, AEW Plus will also feature every episode of AEW Dark. Download the Fight app now and join the revolution today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time here on Saturday night, June 4th. It is the Super Show, and one of my favorite things about the Super Show is not the bull crap that Meathead just spewed, but, and keep in mind, the more y'all screw me in the draft, the better my win is going to be in just a few months. But it is the part where we welcome all of the rest of the PWR crew here to the show. It is the lounge, folks, and we just sort of kick back, relax, and talk about what the hell's going on in the world of wrestling. And I'm so honored and pleased to be joined, continued still here, by one David Hero, but also the lovely Linda Kay from the Milwaukee. How are you tonight, girl?
Doing tremendous. Taking in the sunshine and talking wrestling always makes me feel good.
That's what it takes, huh?
And a shot of whiskey. I mean, come on.
What type of whiskey are we talking here?
Duly noted. Duly noted. Welcome, Linda. Good to see you again. And Jason Solomon, still on lockdown and quarantine in New York, and your hair grows so quickly because even over last week, it looks like it's that much more.
Yeah, it's kind of taking over. I don't know if you ever saw one of the Stephen King movies, Creep Show, and they have one of the little stories in the movie where he turns into like a giant plant that's just growing out of him from pretty much every part of his body. I feel like at some point it's going to take over. I'm going to look like Cousin It when I come on the show. Hopefully things change very soon though, so I can go to my guy and we can get all this smoothed out and taken care of.
Everyone's got a guy.
The advantage of looking like Cousin It means you want to buy a mask, so you should be
True.
set.
That's true. That is a good point. That is a good point.
So things are, I don't know if things are actually getting better as it pertains to COVID-19 or if we are just focusing on other areas. But it seems as if many parts throughout the country, including in Wisconsin, are opening up things and things are getting back to normal. Linda, you're back at the gym, I understand, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So hopefully in New York and here in New Jersey, where I am as well, that we can see a similar fate soon. But Andrew Baydala, you're up in Minnesota where we'll leave present situation aside, but let's talk about how things are going for you personally right now.
Yeah, things are good. We're just, trying to get by. Never seen anything like this before, but the sunshine, like Linda said, is here and we're enjoying it. So hopefully everyone's staying safe.
Sunshining does have a actual measurable psychological effect on the psyche of human beings.
You are 100% right. I try and get at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day. I read that in a book that's what you should do. So I follow it.
Well, that's how Superman recharges. He absorbs all the radiation into his cells from.
Oh, here we go.
From our sun.
Here we go.
Right?
I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Let's get right down to it, ladies and gentlemen. Big news coming out of AEW this past Wednesday night. Of course, Cody retaining the TNT Championship in his first defense against Jungle Boy. And, actually, before we go further, I want to ask you guys a question. Dave and I spoke about it with Shane. Shane Helms on Thursday's edition of Primetime. But question for all of you is, what does Jungle Boy mean? Why is he Jungle Boy? We couldn't come up with an answer. I think, Jason, you probably would know best. But why is he Jungle Boy?
I just assumed it had to do with the hair, the long hair and the look.
That's what I said.
Yeah. I think
Wait. So,
well, I was going to say, so if that's the case, then I don't know what that makes me. If
you're our Jungle Boy.
Well, we already got a Jungle Boy. I'd have to be something else. So I don't know what's below that. But yeah, I just assumed it was the long hair.
So they haven't explained it. He's just Jungle Boy for whatever reason.
Correct.
I mean, he's part of Jurassic Express. I mean, park, jungle. He's got a loincloth. I mean, that makes him a Jungle Boy, right?
Tarzan. Yeah, the only thing
Dave
he doesn't swing back and forth, but I mean, he's got that old school Tarzan look. All he needs is a chain, and then they can complete the combo.
Yeah, Dave, wasn't he? That was his name on the independent scene too, as well, right? Correct. That's what he went by. Yeah.
Well, the question came up because we were trying to explain it. So what's the story there? So if you tune in and you're a new viewer and you've got Cody, who's got obviously the Rhodes name they don't use, but fits the bill of a professional wrestler. You got Jungle Boy. Okay, great. Why is he Jungle Boy? And as you said, Jason, maybe it is just the hair, but it feels like there could be more to that. And what we also talked about with Shane on Thursday was they seem to struggle to define his identity because they talk about how he's the son of Luke Perry, which could be somewhere to go as well. But all those things combined get me to a place where I still wonder, what's Jungle about the boy?
You know who's done a fantastic job of separating him from that nickname or gimmick name or whatever they want to call it is JR. Jim Ross has called him Jungle Boy Jack Perry numerous times on purpose so that I believe when he gets to that main event level, whether it be the TNT Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship eventually, they won't call him Jungle Boy. They'll just call him Jack Perry.
Maybe down the road. But they still need to explain to us. And I made this point on Thursday.
Well, but let's be fair. I mean, Luchasaurus wrestles like a dinosaur.
I was gonna make the same point. Yeah, you seem very hung up on the idea of Jungle Boy, and yet right next to him is this guy wearing a dinosaur mask. That doesn't seem to bother you.
No, he's wearing a dinosaur mask. That makes sense. I don't need an explanation as to why he's called Luchasaurus, because he's wearing a dinosaur mask. Jungle Boy just has long hair. So does everyone who has long hair? Sorry, Drew, I know you can't relate. Does everyone who have long hair, they just become automatically, you are Jungle Boy?
I suppose so.
No.
I don't have a more logical explanation for you.
He looks like the kid
was
from the
Yokozuna
Jungle Book.
actually Japan or Japanese? Was he actually from Japan? No.
But he looked like it. I didn't need an explanation. There's the point. Here's my point. If I'm the casual fan tuning into AEW and I'm used to WWE, I have explanations. WWE is very, very good at explaining to me why this person is that person. AEW has been very reliant on their existing fan base and the wrestling fans who are in the know. In order for them to expand, and this goes to the Tyson conversation I think we're going to have later on in DWHS, David Hero. This goes to later on, when they secure a new audience, for those who are tuning in out of curiosity for Tyson, what buy-in does the audience have to their characters? Because as much as the characters are not the focal point in AEW, at a point, there will be a point by which they need to expand, or they may want to expand. I don't know if they need to because they've got the financial backing, but they may want to expand beyond their core audience. And in order to do that, you have to create that more emotional investment in the people and the story, not just the tremendous action that we see bell to bell.
To the casual fan, you want to see gimmicks, you want to see good guys, bad guys. And honestly, if I just tuned in, never watching AEW, and saw Jungle Boy, I would like that. You know, you want characters, and I don't necessarily need an explanation. I see he's got the look, he's got the hair, again, the loincloth, he's high flying and part of a faction called Jurassic Express. So I think he totally fits that mold for the casual fan to really buy into.
Yeah, I think the superhero gimmick kind of limits them, whether it be male or female.
Whoa, pump the brakes. Superheroes are never limited.
I'm just saying, like, Duke the Dumpster Drosy was a,
he was not a superhero.
I understand. I'm just saying, like, even Shane Helms is the Hurricane. I thought Shane Helms was at his best, but it limits your potential as being just.
He beat The Rock as a superhero, as the Hurricane.
Yeah,
as Gregory Helms, he couldn't beat The Rock.
All right, well, let's leave that behind, folks, and let's go to our first topic here in the lounge, our second topic now, but our first scheduled topic, and that is AEW announcing this past Wednesday night on Dynamite that Fyter Fest, indeed their biggest event of the summer, as they call it, will be taking place on TNT, replacing Dynamite over the course of 2 weeks, July 1st, July 8th, and it is no longer a pay-per-view event. They're giving back to the audience. And this event will be, as I said, on TNT, and apparently it's going to feature two big-time matchups. Jon Moxley defending his championship against Brian Cage, and the anticipated matchup between Mike Tyson and Chris Jericho. Whew, they're giving this one away on free TV. Dave, I mean, we talked about it a bit Thursday, but let's give us your summarized statements here for Saturday.
I'm confused. Why must they give something back to the fans? They've only had to pay for 2 shows so far this year. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Like, every week they're giving something back. They've had 2 pay-per-views. That's been it. It's not like it's every month and like, oh, for the last 6 months you've been supporting us. We want to give something back to you.
It was free last year too. It just was on Bleacher Report.
It sounds great on paper. But you need to start making a little bit of money when you don't have anybody in the seats. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to go out there and sign new free agents when they become, available.
Is it confirmed that they're doing Jericho and Tyson at 5? I just assumed that they were working on something maybe for All Out. That's their bigger show a little bit later on. I guess that's Labor Day weekend. I'm not aware of where things are as far as Fyter Fest. It seems surprising if that's the case. I assume that would be just to pop a TV rating, but when you get a guy like Mike Tyson, if they're able to work out some kind of deal with him, I'm kind of in the same camp with Dave. You try to maximize the amount of money that you can make on it, and you do it on a big show like an All Out.
Yeah, I think Tyson will be at Fyter Fest, but I think they'll probably have a contract signing between him and Jericho for All Out.
That would make more sense.
Yeah, and I think the Brian Cage versus John Moxley match really doesn't, for me. It's no offense to either performer, but Cage comes in, wins that Casino Royale ladder match, and gets the title shot. I love the pairing with Taz, but this doesn't make me want to order or watch, the match. It's not something that is very intriguing to me, and I'm sure I'll get murdered for that, but it's just not.
Well, it won't be a match, right? Tyson, remember, he never had a match per se in WWE. He was in.
Well, he did.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Tag match.
Oh, the tag match.
Technically a tag team match, which is the one where he turned on Jericho.
Fair enough. 2010, 1998, when he was the catalyst for the turn for WWE, he was just a special enforcer, but he was a prominent person in that role. So, gosh, that leads to a great question. Should they have a match? Should it be a match, a street fight or whatever it will be between Jericho and Tyson? How should they use him? If it is a contract signing for a match at All Out, should that really be a match? Tyson can't wrestle, and he ain't going to learn to.
Well, I hope it's something better than we would get from Mayweather Big Show at WrestleMania. So, I mean, I feel like at Fyter Fest, they will have another face-to-face or a contract signing, like you said, Drew, and, everything leading up to their next big show All In, and we'll see what it leads up to. But it's got to be some type of street fight, if not Jericho agreeing to a boxing match, right?
Well, when Jericho talked to ESPN and he had floated that as an idea, he was saying, right now nothing is signed, but it could be anything. It could be a wrestling match. And then he said it could be a boxing match. And it gave me horrible flashbacks to Mr. T and Roddy Piper from WrestleMania 2, which was no bueno. So if it were me, I don't personally have the appetite for a boxing match. But yeah, it could end up being some kind of a 3-round boxing fight, and Jericho and these big boxing gloves could be entertaining.
Yeah,
I don't know if they want to play it off for comedy or not. Look, I think if you can get Mike Tyson in for any kind of match, if it's a wrestling match, it may not be that good, but it's the attraction of it. And that, like Damian pointed out, we didn't get that match back in 1998. I think a lot of people were hoping we would get Tyson against Austin, and it never happened. So if you could do Tyson and Jericho, Tyson looks to be in pretty good shape, for a guy his age. He's getting back into fighting shape. I say you do it and you make the most of it, because I think he could still do big business.
Well, and to Damian's point, would you guys like to see a 6-man tag match? Because that's what I would like to see. I'd like to have Tyson and the Young Bucks take on Jericho and Santana and Ortiz. That's what I would like to see.
Tyson's lost
Not for me.
He's lost.
Yeah, but I mean, so I put the question again that you asked. Do you really want to see a one-on-one?
You know what? It has to be Tyson with gloves on. There's never that I can remember in the history of professional wrestling where a boxer has gone into the squared circle and not had boxing gloves on.
Mr. T.
That's who you're. But when he had his match, but that was in a tag match.
Right.
Like in a one-on-one match, they've
Okay.
always had their gloves on, and that's who they want, because Tyson's going to be he's probably going to be fighting Evander Holyfield on pay-per-view in a boxing match.
Really?
I don't know if I trust Mike Tyson to be in the ring and not have boxing gloves on.
I agree with you 100%.
Just if you watch how that pull apart happened, that was a complete disaster.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure if Tyson hits you, he's got gloves on.
Well, did they fail right there? Because, okay, after that, so you had the pull apart, which we talked about last week. You had the pull apart, then you had Tyson's video backstage. Then you had Jericho this past Wednesday on Dynamite accepting or challenging Tyson to a match. So progression-wise, we're doing okay. But did they ruin it from the get-go with the, I guess you can call it, the comedic nature of the unbelievability of the pull-apart, to the point you made, Jason, of how much fun can they have? How much fun should this be? And while it may be entertaining, do you bring on Mike Tyson to make a funny ha-ha? Or do you bring on Mike Tyson to elevate your company and your stars?
Well, that's the biggest issue that I had with the whole thing. I don't know how many of you saw Henry Cejudo is an MMA fighter. He was there. He was part of Tyson's entourage for the pull apart. And I assume he did this on his own. The next morning he posted video from backstage when they got to the back, and they're all just palling around like they're best friends. And it really irked me, because you've got to have more common sense than that. I assume he just was having a good time and didn't know any better. And it highlighted the biggest difference between what we saw with Tyson and Jericho, where everybody was kind of all smiles and everything. There was no intensity, right? When we saw Tyson and Austin all those years ago, there was an intensity about it. It wasn't for comedy. It wasn't played for laughs. I think that's something that's lacking here. You don't want to make a joke of the whole thing. And so, you know, to Dave's point, having the boxing gloves on, I think that would make sense. Him and you know, Holyfield probably are going to have some kind of charity fight. I saw the Holyfield video. So clearly that's going somewhere. And who knows how that might influence this, you know, if they're trying to put that fight together and they don't want Tyson to get hurt, you know, this whole thing could fall apart very easily. So you don't want to play it for laughs. I think it's missing a little something, but I don't know if they can recapture that, you know, what we saw 22 years ago. The circumstances now are very different.
They can't try. And I think they tried with that pull apart, and it was unfortunately, because it was so similar, it didn't come up good. Now, keep in mind, again, 22 years ago, some people never saw it. Some people don't understand it. A lot of fans are like, this is awesome. Mike Tyson, the guy from Hangover, the point you made earlier, or the point you've made, Dave, the guy from Hangover, is in a wrestling show. This is cool. He's got those tigers. I get it. Makes sense. New audience. A lot of you are old, so you can't see the new wave like Linda and I can see. But they could go in many different directions with this. They can go in many, many different ways with this, but it's going to be on free TV. So how do you capitalize on it in such a way that whatever investment, if any, is being made in Tyson, that you get the full effect out of it? Andrew, how would you capitalize on this situation, this opportunity for not a one-off for 2 weeks, but for the long term?
Well, I think they tried to do this. And I think the problem is right now is that both ESPN and Fox are kind of in bed with WWE. So that kind of leads them, being AEW, well, to gather that publicity that they were trying so hard to get with Mike Tyson. It really wasn't going to work. How I would do this, I'm not really sure. I thought the pull apart was kind of lackluster. I thought that, like you said, Tyson was coming off the biggest fight, and he was being banned by the boxing commission, and he was red hot. We showed up at the Royal Rumble, and then we were off to the races. I would probably have a boxing match with Chris Jericho, and I would try and capture as much publicity as I possibly could. But I don't know. I think this one's kind of dead in the water right now. I really do.
I think the challenge with the boxing match with Chris Jericho is if Tyson comes in and looks like a fool, has fun with it, makes it a comedy bit, he's then not serious outside.
Very true. Very true.
See, I think what they need to do is they tripped out of the gate with Tyson. Okay, they had way too many of his entourage in the ring. I think what you do is Tyson comes back in a week or two to TV with the whole entourage, but they're stopped out back by security and says, no, only 2 or 3 of your people can come in, and everyone else now is forced to stay out. Okay, so that way when they have finally the interaction between the inner circle and just Tyson and his 3 or 4 associates, as we can say, now it has more of a real grit feel to it. I think Tyson will have his gloves on. I think it's going to be like Ali against Inoki, where the wrestler versus the boxer. Chris Jericho is so good, you don't put gloves on him because he can improvise. You put gloves on Jericho, and now you limit how good he is in the ring because he's a tremendous storyteller. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to be safe. So they go that route where it's Tyson the boxer versus Jericho the wrestler, and that's how you build it. Boxer versus wrestler.
Couldn't they do a boxing match where Jericho gets knocked out quick too? That, to Damien's point, to save Tyson's, behind in case.
No, because here's the thing. You can dance around the ring and not do anything for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather does it every fight.
Yeah, so if you're going to bring in Tyson, you're not knocking out your number one guy quick.
But what do you do to come out of it? How do you capitalize on it? So let's move beyond the actual contents. Well, actually, we can't move beyond that. But the question is, how do you garner? Because you don't make an investment like this, again, assuming it's a substantial financial investment, you don't make an investment like this not to get anything or to get 1 week or 2 weeks or one pay-per-view out of it. The only bar we have to hold it against is WWE successfully using the leverage in 1998. And that really, I think, was a catalyst for them taking over WCW in the ratings wars. But how does AEW do this? What should they do to capitalize on it, Jason, going after whatever they do with Tyson?
Well, I mean, as far as capitalizing on it, the problem that I see is when we saw Tyson previously, just to use the Austin stuff as an example, Austin, he was already going to be a big star, right? But he was a star on the rise. They used Tyson to sort of solidify Austin as this big megastar. Jericho's already an established veteran. Jericho doesn't need the rub from this. I almost think it would be better if they had somebody like an MJF working with Tyson, because he's a heel like Jericho is, but he's a young star on the rise. He could get a lot more out of the rub than Jericho would, I think, from this. And I think that would be actually fantastic. And it's too bad they didn't go in that direction. I think the best you could hope for at this point is that if you can get a match out of it, whether it's a boxing match or a wrestling match, keep it short, put it on pay-per-view, for God's sakes, don't put it on TV. And hopefully they can just, do some business with it. They'll get a little bit of exposure. Again, the way things are right now, you're not going to get the kind of publicity that maybe you would have gotten at another time, but just take advantage of whatever little bit of publicity you can get and then just move on. I don't know what more you can really, do with Tyson. They're already going down the road with Jericho. You've got to give it some kind of conclusion. Just do the fight, make your money, and just hope for the best.
One of the things that AEW has in their favor that we don't talk about enough is that the father owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he has NFL pull, NFL connections. You don't think some of those NFL players aren't going to put their 2 cents in on Mike Tyson coming and fighting in Jacksonville? There's ways of getting it. There's ways of getting the word out.
We saw the football stuff though at what was the pay-per-view that just happened?
Double
or Nothing. Yeah, we saw that. We saw the football connection.
But you didn't see any of the NFL players.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
And for that reason, I think it's too bad that it's almost happening too early, because if the NFL season was active right now, you'd have to think they'd get even more publicity. They can plug it during the games and stuff, at least maybe not on Fox, but, on some of these networks. So the summer is almost like kind of a dead period. I think that might hurt them in terms of the publicity.
But let's not forget the NBA is coming back also.
That's true.
And the NBA is on TNT.
Well, who is TNT? Remind me. TNT, is that Viacom, or is that what conglomerate are they part of?
Isn't that Warner?
It's Warner.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and if you remember when AEW was starting, they were all over everything that was on TNT.
Still are.
I think but it'll be more if Mike Tyson's involved. Doesn't matter if Tyson's going to be at Fyter Fest or if he's going to be at All Out. It doesn't matter. TNT is their business partner because they win with it, and they're going to get behind them 110%. Yeah, ESPN, is great to have, but I would rather get 500 commercials during the week on TNT promoting it than 1 or 2 segments on SportsCenter.
Well, the problem when basketball comes back is they're supposedly the schedule is like 5 to 6 games a day, and TNT is the home of basketball. What happens to Dynamite on Wednesday nights? Do they move to TBS? I mean, that's going to be a big challenge.
If anything, the NBA will move to TBS.
Oh.
I don't know about that. Yeah, that's being very optimistic.
They're paying more for the NBA programming than they are the AEW programming. But hey, the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show never kept up.
That's why Vince moved the Spike. Remember?
But hey, Nitro back in the day, Nitro was preempted because of NBA basketball.
It was, yeah.
It's a fascinating point, though, Damien, because realistically, like Jason said, they should do something with a rising superstar because Jericho's very established. So Mike Tyson,
Well, there's time. There's time to change things up.
But do you trust MJF not saying something stupid to Tyson right now?
That would be brilliant, though.
Tyson would be great and stupid. That's what's great about it.
Yeah, do it. Let him get knocked out for real.
I don't know.
Actually, that would be perfect for MJF, right?
Right.
He'll get more out of it long term.
Okay, if you're Mike Tyson, who are you more comfortable with having a program with?
He doesn't.
MJF.
He doesn't
Chris
know.
Jericho. Of course he does. Mike Tyson's management group is saying, "Yeah, let's go with one of the greatest of all time."
Mike Tyson's management almost got him to fight Tyson Fury, which would have been a disaster. So,
it's about the payday.
Well, you know what that would have been called? That would have been the Tyson Fury fight, which would have been very.
So, final question on this, Linda, starting with you. Fyter Fest, should that be the event that houses Chris Jericho versus Mike Tyson? Yes or no?
No. They've got time to build this and change things up, and it's the big moneymaker for the next pay-per-view. Hopefully getting more viewership July 1st and July 8th will lead to more money in the end, obviously, but no, they have time like to get that contract signing like we were talking about, another face-to-face without a brawl happening. That was a bit too soon for me. And yeah, we can wait till the next pay-per-view.
Jason, what do you say?
Yeah, it's far too early. I mean, if you're going to do it, you have to wait until you get to your next big show, which is going to be Labor Day weekend. And that gives you a couple more months to really tease this out, try to get some publicity out of it. Again, maybe as David said, maybe you could tie the NBA into it somehow. To do it at the beginning of July, I think would be insane.
Andrew, final word.
I say it's way too early. And no, I would wait till All Out, and I'd have Sammy Guevara throw the towel in on Jericho and turn on him.
That was a question I had, actually. How long will this inner circle last? Because that turn has to happen at some point. I don't know if it's Guevara, but it has to happen at some point. This could be that moment, and that could be the next after Tyson.
I think I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's the star of that group besides Jericho. I think he really is the next.
I don't need you to tell me how big a star Sammy Guevara is.
I know. You're on the train. I get it.
He is.
I get it. I'm just saying, I think that's how I would break them up. And then that kills two birds with one stone. You have him throw the towel in on Jericho. Jericho looks at him like, what are you, nuts? And that's it. Tyson wins the boxing match.
Arnold Scotland during the towel, which got Hogan the championship, I think it was.
Do you think it's fair?
Go ahead, Dave.
Do you think it's fair, talking about your boy Sammy Guevara, taking LAX out of the equation? Is Sammy Guevara the Randy Orton to Jericho being Triple H from Evolution?
I think so.
Yes.
That was Batista, right? Was it? Oh, no, it was Orton. You're right.
Orton did it too. Look, let me say this. When you are Sammy Guevara and you could take a tweet about a real news story of a tiger being loose and then say it all happens again, run, Sammy, run. That's why he's endorsed. The man is he's perfect.
Jericho couldn't keep a straight face last night. I mean, the singing to his theme song, Jericho was
God,
dying.
it sounded like a dead animal.
I've heard Cats in an Alley sound better. You know what I mean?
It's been a really long time.
Well, I got to say this one thing about Sammy Guevara, because he doesn't win very many matches, which is too bad. But I know he's wrestling Colt Cabana, I believe, on Dynamite this week. So I believe Sammy is finally going to win a match. At least I got my fingers crossed.
But that's what's great about Sammy. He doesn't need to win.
Well, at some point, everybody's got to win.
I'm not sure there has been a greater new, and he's not new, he's been around for a little while, but, we talked on Thursday show, Dave, about Drake Maverick and him having it and having that special talent and having everything. Sammy Guevara has the same thing. The charisma, the athletic ability, the energy, the likability, the hateability. It's rare to find those talents in wrestling, and many people have said, not just me because he's endorsed. In fact, Hurricane Helm said it on this program. He's a special talent that has big things ahead of him. And you, Dave, by that look on your face, you just hate him. Why?
No.
Because
you
he's
know what?
less than 200 pounds.
Yeah,
well,
he's gonna
that's
call him a
always
vanilla
an issue.
midget. Watch, here we go.
No, he's Latin. He can't be vanilla. Maybe something else. But he's going to be something because they paired him up with Jericho. They put him under the best learning tree they can have in AEW for him. He says, here, you go with Jericho. You're in the inner circle. He's going to teach you how to be amazing. And Guevara hasn't won many matches, but he's the one guy it seems a lot of people tune in every week to see, because he does something creative or witty or a smirk that just, it's funny. Like him and Matt Hardy when they cross paths. That was an important part of the show because of how they have built up Sammy Guevara to mean something. And then Matt Hardy just because he's Matt Hardy.
Jason, why does he need to win a match?
Well, I mean, it's at some point, he has to win a match. I mean, you don't want to. I understand that he's known for his comedic timing and he's doing a lot of funny stuff, but I do think, call me crazy, I do think wins and losses still mean a little something, and AEW
they do in AEW.
Yeah,
and in AEW they're supposed to mean a lot with rankings and everything. I think at some point, just to maintain some credibility, you're partnered with Chris Jericho. I think for the sake of the inner circle, it doesn't help the group if they have one or two guys who lose all of their matches. I mean, I don't want him to be like what I'm trying to think of, they had 50 NWO members, but take your pick. I mean, at some point it
Scott
got
Norton?
watered down and people didn't look at it the same way.
Were
He
you
doesn't
a,
have to win a lot, but I do think he's got to win some matches.
were you a fan of Iron Mike Sharp?
I was.
He never won.
Well,
Here's
that's
the
not true.
thing.
He did win a few early in his career.
What on the Latin version of Challenge?
No, like
Wow.
usually high on the card on those old Madison Square Garden shows. He got a couple of wins back in the mid '80s.
Didn't Virgil lose a ton of matches too and was still very prominent in WWF?
I wouldn't say very prominent, but he was prominent to a degree.
Here's the beauty, Jason, to what you're saying about how wins and losses mean something in AEW. As the inner circle is starting to slowly crumble, and I think it's going to really crumble after Tyson beats Jericho. And when Jericho brings out his list and he evaluates the team, he's going to look and see, you know, Sammy, you have yet to win a match. And there is the payoff for him losing all the time. He's the guy that might win 1 or 2 matches. He'll probably have like a 2-13 record, you know, this year. And that's going to be the weak link on the team, which will then cause Jericho and LAX and Swagger or Hager to get rid of him to then make Sammy Guevara their top babyface.
The only person that's going to crumble from the inner circle falling apart is going to be Jake Hager, because I don't see where he goes from there. I really don't.
Well, great discussion, guys. A little bit of time remaining here in the lounge, and we want to remind all of you who are watching to chat along with us. We are live here on Fight TV, our great broadcast partner, but we're also on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook as well. So not only watch the show, like the show, subscribe to the show, turn your notifications on, and share the show with your friends and family, because nobody loves anything better than waking up to Linda Kay in their mailbox.
I'll
You
take
mean
it.
DMs? Do you mean DMs?
No, you slide into those. You send and share with them.
Oh, I got you.
No one ever slides into my DMs. I don't get it.
Are they on?
Wasn't that like a feature where it's you can slide? Or
You got to have them open. Are your DMs open to slide or what?
we'll have to discuss this after the call here.
That's
Couple of other quick hits before we are out of the lounge here. And WWE announced earlier this week, on Monday actually, that the WWE Network will have a free tier. Now, we've heard about this for quite a while, but what are your initial takes and thoughts on some of the old pay-per-views and some of the broadcasts or some of the programs from WWE, including Raw, which 3 hours is never long enough for anybody, seems to need to run over onto the network on this free tier, which is smart from a business standpoint, unless you're an exhausted wrestling fan like this guy. But Linda, what strikes you about the news of this free tier of the WWE Network?
Well, I think kind of ties in with Fyter Fest possibly being, with it being free. Try to get more viewership. I mean, you know, you got to see the product now with the whole pandemic, everything changing. They've got to see or get other ways to get more fan viewership. And, you know, sharing usernames and passwords can only go so far. They need to get more viewership, get more casual fans coming in. And, you know, you're with a little bit of sports that we currently have right now, besides UFC and WWE, or wrestling as a whole, excuse me, there really isn't much of an outlet for new footage. But we also need to see, you know what, wrestling isn't always like this. It's not always empty arenas, no pops. You can go back and see what it really truly is. And then when we get that chance to be back live at events, that payout will be right there.
Jason Solomon, question for you. Matt Riddell has been called up to SmackDown, the blue brand for WWE. And while we probably won't see a match between he and Brock Lesnar, what's your take on his graduation from NXT?
Well, I mean, it's been a long time in the making. Anytime somebody gets called up or down, depending on how you look at it, from NXT, I get a little skittish because you never know which way they're going to go. Some guys have success, other guys not so much. I'll say this about Matt Riddle. If they can't find a way to make money with him, and if he's not a big star in this company within the next year, then they don't know what they're doing. They're doing something wrong. This guy, he can work. He's got charisma. He's likable, very athletic. So he's got all of the tools that you would want in a big star. I have high hopes for him. I think on the SmackDown brand, he's got a lot of good talent there to work with. I like the fact that he went to SmackDown and not Raw. There's some enticing matchups on that brand. AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan. I was very interesting to hear Kurt Angle the other day talk about how he turned down the chance to manage Riddle, and he had assumed that had he taken the position that it would have eventually built to a match with him and Matt Riddle. I don't know how I feel about that, but if they were looking at having Kurt Angle manage him, it gives me hope that they see what they have in this guy and that he'll do big things, and maybe one day we'll get that Brock Lesnar match or Goldberg or somebody, because I think there's money in both those matches.
All right. Well, Dave, I won't ask you a question about Matt Riddle's size, but Andrew Baydala, final question here in the lounge today. Slammiversary coming from TNA. They have said that they're going to be bringing back some stars, and they teased quite blatantly that many of those who were released from WWE who 3 days prior to Slammiversary will be beyond their 90-day compete clause may be appearing on that show. Now, we know Drake Maverick won't, but what's your take on TNA taking that bold step and going similar to what Vince McMahon did in 1996 before the Warrior came back, when the Warrior came back and said the Warrior was coming back?
My take on that is I think it's a smart business move. They still have a lot of momentum, them being the released talents. I think Mike and Maria Kanellis, Eric Young, EC3, maybe even Rusev, who's never stepped foot in an Impact wrestling ring, but I think it's a smart business move. I don't know if they'll be there long term. This might be a per appearance deal, but I think it's very, very smart, and I think they're smart to capitalize on it, and it'll make me want to tune in. So kudos to them.
Well, let's not forget the show they were going to do WrestleMania weekend was going to feature a lot of returning talents from TNA. So good concept. Let's see if they can do it. Hopefully this gets them some traction, because guess what? In our new incarnation since WrestleMania prior to March, that's the first time we've talked about Impact on this show. Wow. So with that being said, it is not just this show. There are more shows. And you, Andrew, just this past week, launched your own little gimmick out there in the virtual world. Why don't you tell us what it's about and where we can see it?
Yeah, me and a buddy of mine kind of run down the week that was prior in wrestling and what just happened on Wednesday nights. And you could follow it at my Twitter, which is at Andrew Baydala, live on YouTube and Periscope every Tuesday and possibly Wednesday night. We'll see where that takes us.
And Linda, I understand you're on Cameo now, or is it OnlyFans? And we can view you for – oh, is that not true?
Wait, tell me this? What?
Well, that was Dave. I'm sorry. Dave, you're the one with the
Whoa. I told you Linda was on OnlyFans. I didn't say I was on OnlyFans.
I thought you said you were her only fan.
Well, I'm always
$5.
Oh, it was way more than that.
How long was it?
How long? Carry the 4. Details. Yeah.
Looks like we lost Jason Solomon. Must have been something you said, Andrew. But Jason Solomon reports on the Solomonster Sounds Off podcast, which you can get across all the social media channels as well. Folks, an active week in professional wrestling. Want to remind you the Pro Wrestling Report is with you each and every morning during the week. Meathead leading the charge with PWR today.
Yeah, well, pump the brakes. We got to talk about that.
Yes, please.
You're not making your appointments, and I got to fill in?
Well, can I say something, Damon? You always give a lot of love to us to plug and promote. Congratulations to you on your new position.
Oh, why, thank you. Thank you. Are you a Seinfeld fan?
I am.
So you know the term worlds colliding?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Welcome back, Jason. We were just talking about how you get away with, even with so much more hair, there doesn't seem to be any product in it, and it still looks good.
Well, I appreciate that. That makes me feel good. I've given up already as far as product. I was trying. Yeah, you try to like slick it back and stuff. It's got a mind of its own, so I just kind of let it go. I look like Albert Einstein before I at least was able to brush it for the show. So
Linda was just telling us how you could just slap it up, flip it, rub it down, and say, "Oh no."
Yeah. I could probably twist it into little bow ties and stuff. I can get creative.
Tell us about the Solomonster Sounds Off podcast.
Sound Off podcast drops every Sunday. I also have a live Dynamite stream up on YouTube every Wednesday night, but you can get the Sound Off on all major podcast platforms, iTunes, and we are now on iHeartRadio as well. Awesome. Each and every Sunday.
Congratulations. What is this Dynamite stream? Are you during the show, during the broadcast?
No. As soon as the broadcast goes off, I go live.
Awesome. All right. Well, There were so many jokes I was ready to make there that I'm killing myself.
What, about the balloon animals? That's what I thought you were going to go with.
No, about once the show goes off, you get up, go on, whatever.
Oh.
Linda, OnlyFans, what's your backslash?
He's still on. My good God.
I want to make you some money.
Speak of. Well,
Hey.
we gotta create this.
Sunny's doing 6 figures already. So, Linda, I know you can do at least that.
Oh, you guys. You do this for me, okay?
Oh, sure. I'll be your content creator. That's perfect.
Jesus. Well,
Oh my goodness, huh?
All right.
I don't know what I'm getting myself into, guys.
Well,
I don't know.
Funny.
You don't want it. Whatever you're getting into, you don't want it.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us. I love the lounge here on the PWR Primetime Super Show on Saturdays. Unfortunately, Josh Chernoff not with us today, which is why we heard so much more from Jason. But Josh, as he said last week, his wife expecting another child. He's got to obviously focus on what needs to be focused on: his life, his child, his family. We welcome Josh to come back, and we'll be back on the show after he gets through this time in his life. So with that being
18 years.
Right.
yes.
Yeah, it'll be a while.
With that being said, thank you guys all for your contributions. Thank you for watching. We're going to take a brief time out, tell you a little bit more about Fight TV and Collar and Elbow. And when we come back, we have to endure this week's edition of DWHS, which is always full of just nonsense. We'll be right back in just a moment, folks.
You people want to see it?
The wait is over.
Got to give the people what they want.
All Elite Wrestling is now available on AEW Plus.
What are we seeing?
This is your chance to watch AEW Dynamite, commercial-free and live every Wednesday night.
Let's do this.
Exclusively on the Fight Digital Sports television platform.
AEW.
AEW Plus is available in over 100 countries outside the US, Canada, Germany, and France. AEW Plus can be viewed on your smart TV, mobile device, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, or at Fight.tv.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Starting this month, AEW Plus will also feature every episode of AEW Dark. Download the Fight app now and join the revolution today.
Following announcement has been paid for by Collar and Elbow.
Folks, there's Jumpin' Jeff Farmer. Jeff, a while back, what a match you had with Motley.
Yep.
A hero to many, but without a villain, there can truly never be a hero.
Motley Cruz, you turned the tables on me. You turned the tables in a wrong way.
Now the tables have been turned again. The other way. Collar and Elbow has signed the most villainous of villains to be a sponsored athlete.
Mr. Buddy Lee, did you hear that?
That's right, Motley Cruz representing Collar and Elbow.
Did you hear him?
I heard it.
Get me excited, man.
Oh, we are going full force with this game plan.
Gang plan or no gang plan, you come my way. Defeat is waiting on you, son.
Collar and elbowbrand.com.
Full force.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime on a Saturday night. David, this truly has become the Super Show.
It's amazing. It's like the super show of super friends of the Pro Wrestling Report and Nelson family on this way on the side. Yeah. I love it. Great atmosphere. And
I will say,
how about Linda Kay?
I will say this, I love going into the lounge. I miss Josh Chernoff already. He's
You know what? I miss him too, but everybody got to speak tonight. So that's a win-win for me.
But
Well, I don't know if you need to go that far with it, but I want to talk about some other men that have been kept down. Let's talk about Chris Jericho and Mike Tyson. That fight match.
Wait, what do you, you're changing the subject on me? You're taking the whole.
Well, because I'm uncomfortable where you're taking your conversation.
Well, okay,
So
here. Who's presenting this segment, Dave?
Collar and Elbow. Who else? Go to collarandelbowbrand.com. Use promo code PWR360 and save money on some of the greatest, most comfortable wrestling fashion t-shirts you are ever going to see, including the amazing Shad Gaspard shirt, where 100% of all the proceeds for Shad's shirt go straight to his family. But yeah, you can check out some really cool shirts, some Tiger King, some new shorts are coming. We got hats, jackets, Good Brother gear, tremendousness, Mean Gene Okerlund t-shirt. But let's talk about AEW. Mike Tyson and Chris
You want to
Jericho.
talk about AEW?
Absolutely, because it looks like Tyson and Jericho are going to be going
Tyson and Austin.
one-on-one.
Tyson and Austin. Tyson and Austin
are going to be going one-on-one at Fyter Fest, which I can't believe they're going to give away that match for free on free TV. I know Shane Helms, we talked about earlier, where he said maybe he got, it's a cheaper fee. It's not a pay-per-view. It's not. It's on TV.
Do you have to pay a cable bill to get TNT?
Well, it depends what kind of gimmicks you got on your TV.
Then it's a pay-per-view. You have to pay to watch it. Pay-per-view.
Okay. You're getting lost in the context right now. I'm about the details here. And the match got off on the wrong foot. It was kind of soft, when he was involved with Cody and Lance Archer. He didn't get involved. He was yawning at ringside. He was all about himself. Then he confronts Jericho in the inner circle, and like 36 guys come out, which apparently the announce team had no idea all these talents were coming out with him, so they weren't prepared for it. They didn't know. They couldn't get it over who was all with him and whatnot. Tyson's buddy, who looked like you saw the movie No Holds Barred, correct?
Of course I did.
Okay, number one of the fighters, he had like I think it was Bill Eadie, Demolition Axe. He had like the black eye paint on, and he's one of the rough and tumblers against Hulk Hogan as Rip. Anyways, I'm going way off in something else here, but it was sloppy. And it's like, it wasn't good business, and they didn't capitalize on it. It wasn't all over mainstream media TV, which is what they were hoping for. And now, instead of trying to recapitalize and not capitalize on it, they're putting it on free television, which tells me they better record that match, because Mike Tyson, as amazing as he is, has no clue what he's doing, because he looked lost. I think he ruined the segment by not paying attention to what was going on. And yeah, I don't know if this is good business to give away a Mike Tyson fight, because he's gonna win. Chris Jericho is not gonna beat Mike Tyson, so now you're gonna give away a match on free TV with Mike Tyson knocking out who is your top star in the company. And I just think that it wasn't produced right. It's not being planned out properly. Kudos to them for trying, but I'm severely concerned that Mike Tyson might actually be bad business for AEW, because if they don't improve their ratings numbers, it was a lot of lost money. So let's hope Cody and company can reel Mike Tyson in, do something different to create buzz, make it look good, make it look like a main event fight. Not feed off of what happened in WWE, because that's the backstory. You got to change that a little bit, because you don't want people going back to that footage first. But if they don't, it could be the first real stumbling block of AEW. And with that, David Hero has spoken.
You may want to take that spoken back, because you're just so wrong on so many levels. How great is it going to be to get that mainstream media attention on television?
Okay, but Damian, what was the ratings this last week? Like 750,000 people, right?
Sure, we'll go. And it was closer than the shows has been in the past.
Right. So if they don't do 1.1 million views, 1.2 million views, if they don't pop up another 500,000 people on free TV to see Mike Tyson fight,
but they can't. They could.
But here's the thing.
They won't.
But here's the problem.
What's the problem?
Let's say they get 1.5 million people to watch, because I think they got like a 1.3, for their first couple episodes. Okay, so the potential is there to hit that number. They need to do something to keep them the following week and the week after that.
Their product already does.
But if you pop up 500,000, you can't drop back 500,000.
But what if you drop back 200,000? What if you drop back 300,000? Net gain 200,000.
That's great. Then that's a win. That's what I'm saying. They have to be able to, keep some of that
Let me
victory
ask you this.
for the
Let me
company
ask you this. As a wrestling promoter, you bring in
Mhm.
big name talent for some of your shows, but not all. Why don't you bring them in for all? Do you bring a big name talent in for one show to hope to get a pop for the next show because they saw what they like?
It depends on the budget that I have for the show. Some shows, it could be a bought show for a county fair or something like that, and they only have X number of dollars. Well, there's no money to bring in the big name. I bring in a name for every one of my shows that I personally pay for myself.
But that's the draw, right? And they're going to see other great wrestling, and maybe you're going to gain some of those attendees.
But the GLCW fan base has now been conditioned that every month they're going to see a Billy Gunn, a Road Dogg, a Kevin Nash, a Goldust, a Jim Ross, a Road Warrior Animal, an ODB versus Molina.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean? And it's like, let's say you watch, and this is going to come off completely wrong. I'm going to probably get a ton of heat for it, but it is what it is. You watch and you see Jericho versus Mike Tyson. And you're like, oh my God, you've never watched AEW before. You know what? That was pretty cool. I'm going to watch next week. You know what? It's on 7 o'clock Wednesday. I can't wait. I tune in the next week, and I'm ready because I used to watch in the Attitude Era, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be freaking awesome.
Here we go, folks.
And I get Orange Cassidy against Marco Stunt.
I knew it. I knew exactly. Your clicker was on from the moment you started talking.
Hold on a second. I love Marco Stunt. He is an amazing guy, and I think Orange Cassidy is super talented. I mean, both guys would give a very entertaining match, okay? But for the guy that watched Steve Austin beat the hell out of Vince McMahon and the
20 years ago.
DX,
20 years ago.
Exactly. He's not going to stay and watch that.
But the new audience might likely stay. And probably
maybe.
will, because
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that new audience. I'm talking about the guy. I'm not talking about the guy that tuned in to watch Tyson versus Jericho, who's going to be our age. He's not going to be 25 years old because he doesn't know who Mike Tyson is. He's the guy from the movie Hangover, as far as he knows.
Which, well, I mean, that's still good.
Right, but you and I remember Mike Tyson as a bad man, a bad ass.
The baddest man on the planet.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it is your segment, so I will let you
do
as you do with it. But I just don't agree at all. So,
but hey, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to agree. You'll just be wrong as usual because at the end of the day, that was the DWHS.
And with that, David Hero has spoken. Is that
has spoken?
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, folks, we are coming up on the end of the broadcast here. I want to thank you all for joining us. It's been an action-packed show, but we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the times we're in. And David, we've talked privately about this, and we don't want to, at any point in this episode, have been felt to have been taking light of the situation, not only with obviously COVID-19, but with the real distress that is going on in many pockets and many areas, in fact, across the entire country. And we support the movement. We support rightness. We support things to be done fairly. And unfortunately, in this country for a long time, there's been a lot of inequity and a lot of inequality. And I think that what we're seeing over these last few weeks is a movement that will get us to a better place. And no matter which side of the movement you fall on, I think that we could all step back and look at and ask ourselves, are we really doing as great as we can for everyone in this country as we may be doing for some groups of people in this country? And that is the only question I ask you to ask yourself. We here at the Pro Wrestling Report have been always about having fun. We have many times avoided discussing a lot of these global issues, but I think, David Hero, you would agree, things are different this time. And and I think that the spirit of the movement is right. I think that there is positive change that's going to come of this, and when the people speak, that is when these things happen. And you know, it's a tough time right now, and I'm glad we have wrestling as a release.
Yes.
I'm glad we have entertainment as a release, and I hope that very, very soon we will all be able to enjoy these things on an equal plane and to move forward in a better place in our country.
Absolutely. Who would have thought that our leaders in this would have been The Rock and Titus O'Neil? Yeah, I think they both have done a great job. We're supporting the good guys on both sides. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you know, I'm looking forward to a lot of great changes going forward for everybody.
And with that, folks, for the entirety of the PWR team and for that one, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for joining us here on the Pro Wrestling Report Super Show. Tune in tomorrow night to In Your House, to NXT TakeOver In Your House, to see how well that guy and Shane Hurricane Helms did in their fantasy booking in our special Be the Booker episode that popped last night in advance of NXT TakeOver. So we'll be back with you again on Thursday night for another new edition of PrimeTime. But in the meantime and in between time, each and every weekday, get a brand new episode of the Pro Wrestling Report across our social media channels, including on all podcast networks. It's PWR Today. You can take it with you on the go. You get all the day's wrestling news and views in 20 minutes or less, hosted by the man they call Meathead. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in, folks, and we will see you again in just a few days.